If you are interested in learning how to make these beautiful gong sleeves, then this video is for you. So keep watching. Hi lovelies, welcome back to my YouTube channel. You are highly welcome. Today we are going to be learning how to make a gong sleeves, and these are the material needed. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to be doing is to measure my armhole. Like, you need the armhole measurement to guide you to know how you're going to draft your sleeve. So to have that puff effect, you have to add extra 4 inches. So when you are folding your fabric, you fold it into two and you add extra 4 inches to your armhole. You know, the armhole is what guides us to know the width of our how wide our sleeve will be. So this is me. I've already measured my armhole and I added extra 4 inches. So that is my starting line, and from there I'm going to impute the length of the sleeve. One thing about gong sleeve is it shouldn't be too long. The highest length should be your elbow, though I didn't make mine to reach my elbow. So after measuring it, I added half-inch sewing allowance to it, and that's what I am marking. Then afterwards, I am going to impute what I got from my armhole length, and I'll also add the extra 4 inches for the puff. From that point, I'll come down by 4.5 inches as my cap height. So I wanted it a bit deep. If you want to learn how to calculate your cap height, I'll drop a video link on how to draft a sleeve. So that 4 inches for the puff, I am trying to return it to the edge, and from that point I will slope it into my cap height. So this is just like the 4 inches at that down point and the extra 9 inches that I got from my armhole length at this outer point. Now I will divide the armhole length by 2. I'll also try to get the center, and I'll come up by ½ inch to get my armhole curve. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the armhole curve. I'll also do the same thing on this down part. If you want to understand the basic explanation of a basic sleeve, I'll drop the video in the description box. So now I'll measure my round armhole and I'll just remove 1 inch from it. You can see it's just the round armhole I measured, and you remove 1 inch from it. That's how to get your round sleeve. And I'm going to add ½ inch sewing allowance to it, and I'll try to connect it like so. So now I'm going to be adding my ½ inch sewing allowance to the round armhole also, and also to my puff part, and I'm going to be cutting it out like so. So you have to try to study your lines and everything before you cut. And afterwards, I will notch the point where my actual sleeve starts from, and I'll also try to notch the point where the puff starts from. Please do not forget to notch those places because they are very important and you will need them later. Now I'm going to cut out my lining, and here it is. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off ½ inch from the length of my lining, so that the lining will not be puffing out under the sleeve. It will be able to lay perfectly inside. Just ½ inch is okay. And I'm also going to notch those vital points on the lining also. As you can see, I have cut off ½ inch from the lining. I'm trying to perfect what I cut out. Then now the next thing for me to do is to cut out my gum stay, or it is also known as collar stay. So I'm not using the hard one, I'm just using the medium collar stay. So I'm using the collar stay for my main fabric, while I'll be using the paper stay for my lining. And also try to cut it out, like trace out the pattern like the way I'm doing. But also, after I have used my main fabric to trace out the pattern of the gum stay like the way I'm doing right now, I am still going to trim off some excess, because I would not want my gum stay to go into the sewing allowance, because gum stay is a bit hard, and when you are sewing it, it is always a bit inconvenient when it enters the sewing allowance. So this is me trimming off every of the sewing allowance. You know, we added ½ inch on the upper part, ½ inch on the side, ½ inch, but instead of me cutting ½ inch, I'm going to be cutting like 0.75 inch on the upper part, on the down part, and on the side, so that it will not even move. You know, there's one thing about all these things: once you iron them, they tend to stretch a bit. So I have gone ahead also to iron my paper stay to my lining, and I've ironed the gum stay to the main fabric. Now the next thing for us to do is to sew them. So I'll be placing my lining on the main fabric, right side facing right side, and I'll go and join it on the down part. Then afterwards I will flip open like so, and I will top stitch on the lining. I'll top stitch on the seam allowance and on the lining. So this is it. I've gone ahead to iron it, and I'm trying to trim every unwanted excess on the side. Now the next thing for me to do is to fold it like this, and the main fabric facing main fabric and the lining facing the lining, and I'll go and join it using my sewing allowance. You can see that the gum stitch didn't go into the sewing allowance at all. Now I'm going to be turning it. It can be a bit inconvenient, but you have to take your time to turn it well. So one thing I do is I use those notches as a guide, and I pin together while turning it. Then I'll try to align every vital lines together with my pin. Then I'll keep pinning and I'll keep arranging it. So before you iron your paper, your sleeve, you have to do this. So when you arrange it like this, then you now take your time to iron it. Like you press iron, you pump in water, you iron. So this is me. I have gone ahead to iron my sleeve, and you can see how aligned it is. The lining is not puffing out of the main fabric. It is just well aligned. So now you will run a loose stitch on this upper part, so that it will guide it and hold it down, just like a gather stitch. Then now the next thing for you to do is to mark out your 4 inches puff allowance. So I lost the clip of how to make that puff. That's why I'm using this paper to illustrate. So this is where my puff starts from, the 4 inches, and that's the center that I have already notched. So what I'm going to do now is I'll try to pleat the excess allowance of the puff that we created for the puff into the notched area. So when you are pleating, you are not just pleating randomly like the way we do our puff sleeve. You will gather all the pleats into that center notch, like so that it will give this effect. You can see this effect it is creating. So when you gather your paper, I'm sorry that I'm saying paper because I lost the clip. You will gather your fabric into the center notch. Let me try to do it again. Like I shifted my fabric and I gathered it into that main notch, so that by the time we tack this point, we have our main round armhole left, and it's the round armhole you are going to be fixing to your sleeve. So this is it, and I hope you learned something new. Thanks so much for watching my video. See you in my next one. Bye.